Hello and welcome to the second episode of my MK Ultra video series. In the previous video we learned about the inhumane process of the MK Ultra programming. This video here will focus on the so-called cult. Who are they, how do they earn the money, and why have you not heard of them by now? So in this video, firstly I will provide you with some educated speculation on how this group might work, and afterwards we shall listen to a text of an ex-cult member, and in the end I will tell you the positive aspect of this all. So let's assume that all the rumors about the Illuminati and the cults are true, that they are a secretive group behind every big event, those super crazy rich guys most conspiracy theories place at the very top of the pyramid. But first, let me ask you a few questions. Who are you loyal to? Who would you die for? Your children? For your wife or husband? Your parents? Your second uncle? Your neighbors? Your city's mayor? Your local supermarket cashier? Your country's president? Your local priest? The head of your religion? Would you give your life to protect your government? Your company? Your boss? Would you die to save Emma Watson or George Clooney? What about Brad Pitt? Why not? Why yes? Where did you draw the line? And why? Now let's repeat the same list with the question, would you take somebody's life to protect your children, your wife or husband, your parents, etc., etc.? Okay, we know of the Illuminati that they are willing to take lives to protect their own group, that they have to have an extreme in-group preference in their members to remain as a group for such a long time. We're speaking here of hundreds of years potentially. Now, let's look back at the questions above. Where did you draw the line? Now you know how highly they value their own group. We know that they cannot be all related by blood, as they are such a big group and have members of all skin colors and all religions in all countries. So, to understand everything better, let's look at known human group structures to better understand how the Illuminati might operate. This will be a long list. The family. Blood is thicker than water, they say. The core evolutionary idea here is that giving your life to protect your family will protect your DNA in the long run. That, in a way, you sacrificing yourself will ensure that your genes will continue to walk on this earth. Their motivation for action here is highly biological and natural, but it's not the most stable of connections, as not all families live happily together, especially not in the current times. The next group is the nation, as studies have shown that two random British people are genetically closer than a British and a Frenchman. So, biologically speaking, fighting for your country is an evolutionary beneficial behavior, as it ensures that your genes or those closely related to your genes continue to walk on this earth. This system is also not bulletproof, but historically speaking, this has been a very common type of grouping for humans. The smaller unit, of course, being the tribe. According to current science, humans have evolved to live in small tribes, so the nation being an extended version of the tribe makes sense. Exceptions have always been there. People who betrayed their home country, either for money or because they were treated badly and wanted revenge, or for many other reasons. Related to this are the exiles, people from one nation living in a different nation, example giving Chinatown. The funny thing here is that those groups tend to express stronger typical national characteristics than those in their home country. The exiled Germans, for example, act way more German than the Germans in Germany. Also a related thing is that exiles tend to stick together even more tightly. For them it is a us versus them world. Evolutionarily speaking, this behavior adds up, as it protects their own genes. A quick related note, humans do not like to kill other humans. This is true for most animals. For example, piranhas, those fish with very sharp teeth, could easily kill each other in a fraction of a second. But when two male piranhas fight, they kick each other with their tails. It's a common evolutionary technique to ensure the survival of a species. Military generals of all times have known this. Here now a 10 out of 10 book recommendation. The book is called On Killing by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman or Grossman. It's a super awesome book on the topic of killing. Let me read it quickly. The psychological cost of learning to kill in a war and society. So, in order to increase the rate of your soldiers killing the enemy soldiers, so that your soldiers go against the human instinct and kill those of their own race, you have to dehumanize the other enemies. Oh, those are not humans. They're Germans, they're Krauts, they're cockroaches. You get the idea. The Iraqis, oh, they took the babies out of the incubator and thus cannot be regarded as human. I'm sure in your culture there are many references to this from other related neighboring countries. We will come back to this phenomenon later. Now, a shout out to the Jolly Heretic on YouTube, as I got this info from him. Video linked in the description. The next type of group is a religion. Despite having immigrants from many nationalities, the United States of America stayed a cohesive country because it was one nation under God, a purely Christian country. Religions can act like a glue, making sure that diverse groups of people remain truthful to each other, that they will not stab each other's back at the first chance given. The Crusades are also an example of this type of behavior, a type of glue that can enforce many people to act in great cooperative ways, achieving great things. Another example would be the ancient Chinese Empire. There, the differentiating factor between civilized people and those surrounding barbarians was if one followed the Chinese customs and traditions or not. Barbarians could become Chinese citizens if they accepted and practiced Chinese traditions and rituals. If they did so, they were considered to be Chinese citizens. Then, the next group I want to address is, the Mafia. They also call themselves the family. So they try to access those human instincts to increase the in-group bonding. Generally, not all members of a mafia group are related by blood. The main reason people join this group is for money and power. Money, evolutionarily speaking, increases your likelihood of survival, as well as the chance to find a suitable partner, lady, and nurture her. The big difference here is that the group does illegal things, so there's a constant outside incentive of betraying the group and going to the police, telling the police everything and potentially get a good compensation in return. So, to prevent people from leaving and betraying the group, an internal monitoring structure has to be set up. If you hear somebody thinking about leaving the family, you tell that to the head of the mafia, and then most likely a punishment will be done to show the others that the price of leaving the group is higher than the potential benefit. You have to set an example. It's all about managing incentives. We know that mafias are real and exist in almost every country. They do prefer to use as many bonding mechanisms as possible to remain competitive. For example, the Russian mafia prefers to consist of only people who speak Russian, and from people who are born in Eastern European countries. As they cannot get the family bonus, they try to get the common language and common heritage bonus and common culture bonus. So they can be of a level of a country/nation. Then there are, for example, Arab clans in Germany. These are often all men from the same big family, brothers and uncles working together. So they also profit from the family bonus. All these previous groups use rational arguments to keep their members close. The next group does not need that. The brainwashing cults. We are talking here about the typical crazy guru who creates his own religion and accumulates groupies for himself type of cult. The specialty here is that these cults manage to get by without the evolutionary reasons. The cult members can be from all backgrounds and have nothing in common except the love for the cult leader. Here, evolutionarily speaking, following the group gives no biological advantage. Following some crazy cult leader does not ensure that your DNA survives on this earth. Crazy cults manage to override the natural instincts and behavioral patterns of humans. Generally, they achieve this by isolating the target, forcing the target to leave its family and friends for some esoteric reason. Then they can make the target depend on the cult, by making sure that the cult is the target's only social group. Financial dependence is also a tool in the toolbox. everybody outside of the cult is deemed crazy, dirty, evil, heretic, whatever. Only those in the cult can and should be trusted. The brainwashing here can only be maintained if the target is isolated from normal everyday people. This type of group relies also on the former mentioned dehumanization of non-group members, and also uses the us versus them mentality normally only seen in exile groups. Plus, they manage to install a new type of fake reality into the target's mind. An alternative element in many cults is the sexual stuff. This is for sure also used by some gurus, but I will not get more into detail here. Also, those who leave the cult are shunned, never to be spoken with again, also never to be spoken over again. They are erased from the cult's collective memory. Crazy cults generally do not manage to survive for a long time because of the internal illusions created and cultivated by the cult leader start to become incohesive over time. As it is hard to keep all these countless lies you have made up perfectly memorized over decades. And when the internal house of cards begins to collapse, then more and more people can see the inconsistencies and leave the cult. For example, if 20 years ago you said that all technology was of the devil, nobody should use technology, if I see somebody using technology you will be kicked out of the group. And then, recently some cult members have seen you using a smartphone. Well, then you have to come up with new lies to justify your technically highly blasphemous actions. If this happens too many times, then even the most brainwashed cult member can start to think from themselves and see the reality for what it really is. So that's why most cults who have only a single leader do not manage to survive for a long time. Now that we have spoken over all the types of human groups I could think of, it is now time to analyze what those Illuminati guys and gals and attack helicopters could utilize. As you will hear in the text of svali or svali in the second part of the video, the cult uses almost every option, and on top of that, they also apply that MK Ultra fuckery with great success. They may exceed at whatever their goal is because they use all the possible techniques to glue their people together into one cohesive group. So now let's look at it one by one. The Illuminati is known for generating insane amounts of cash and money and power, so in this regard they are similar to the Mafia. Then there are rumors of certain bloodlines being in this type of business. This could enable their family bond bonus. But from what I have gathered, not all are really related by blood. Some talent, for example, is adopted, but fed the lie of being a part of the family for the formerly mentioned reasons. Then there are punishments for those who leave or even think about leaving the cult. Punishments that are very effective at scaring everybody. Then, normal humans are not regarded as humans at all. They are rather looked down upon. Dehumanization, check. But still, normal humans outnumber the cult members by a lot. So, the we small elite versus the big uneducated masses thing here is also true. Check. Another factor, potentially used by crazy cult and other religious groups, is the we are the chosen ones, the selected few, the ones that God has selected himself to rule over the earth or whatever. These ideas, yeah. If you would believe that God single-handedly selected you to achieve great deeds for your group, and if you were told this line over and over and over again since your childhood, then it could enforce your in-group preference for sure. That's a very good motive to use this type of idea. The formerly mentioned problem of inconclusive group beliefs of crazy cults is avoided by high levels of discipline and strong hierarchy inside the Illuminati, as well as the fact that they all follow for sure some ancient type of evil guy's code, or book or whatever. And because they have very clear set out goals, something world domination and earning shit tons of cash. Then we come to the religion aspect. Simply said, they all seem to worship dark gods, and they all don't like Jesus. I will leave it at this. Also important note here is that Latin American mafia groups also seem to use this type of method. They all worship La Muerte, the god of death. So also here, common religion? Check. Then, as stated in the first video, they do have the "oh, nobody will believe you" weapon. It is highly effective. They have their men in many key positions of society and can make sure that nobody ever manages to speak out effectively against the cult, against the Illuminati. Even if you manage to escape, even if you go to courts with folders full of information, even then the cult will win over you, as they have the best lawyers money can buy and near infinite pockets of cash to make sure that any legal action against them will fail. And then there's of course also the brainwashing from the early age on. The things we talked about in the first video. So, all in all, if they are real, if the Illuminati are real, then they truly use all known techniques to ensure the best possible group cohesivity. But on the other hand, keep in mind that they are well aware that their group is not natural, that the things they do are not in alignment with normal human behavior. They are aware that they require all these techniques they can get their hands on, as otherwise their inhuman system would collapse. They would start stabbing each other in the back at the first given chance. Is this maybe something we see right now in the media? Well, the future will tell. Now we shall listen to Svali or Svali's words. After these then, in the end of the video, you shall hear some positive uplifting words, as well as a call to action. Well, you know the saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. This means that when this group falls, the earth will tremble for days. So, now to Svali and how the cult finances themselves. How the Cult Makes Money, published on June 3rd, year 2000, by Svali. Besides its agenda of power and spiritual abuse, the cult, specifically here the Illuminati, has another basis for existing: making money. Many people are unaware of the large amounts of money that have been generated by the illegal/criminal activities that the cult is involved in. In this article, I plan to share some of these activities based on my memories of being a member of the Illuminati in both Virginia and San Diego, California. I will not use names to protect myself, and all activities are alleged. I will let the reader be the one to decide if my allegations are credible or not. Before I address the cult's money-making enterprises, I want to address one other thing: the huge amount of time that the cult spends in silencing its members. From the earliest childhood on in generational groups, and as adults as well, members of groups involved in the types of activities that I will discuss have one overriding rule: do not tell, do not remember, or you will be severely punished. A child growing up in these groups will have seen setups or actual torture sessions where a person who told or remembered was brutally punished. This creates an unforgettable impression on a young mind of, say, 3 or 4-year-old. They are usually inclined to not tell, either as child or as adult. I am taking a huge risk myself in writing this article, but I feel this information needs to be known. I cannot sit still and let darkness triumph. In the few cases where children did disclose, see my article on Survivors Speak Out on the Remembering, they were not believed. This is why more members do not speak up on the activities that they have witnessed at night, even when they have left an abusive group. It often takes years of therapy and working through these traumatic memories before the former member feels safe enough to disclose what they know. My hope is that my article will be the first of many that others will write, revealing the seamer underside of these abusive groups. Perhaps the public will decide that these groups must be stopped. This is my greatest wish. Any group must have income to survive. Their logistics demand it: gas for fuel, for uniforms, for expenses. Wealthy members may help fund the group, but it is better if the group can come up with its own expenses. And the Illuminati have done this at a local level quite well. How do they make money? First, pornography, both and adult. Pornography is a big money-making business around the world. This money is often made at the expense of young children, to feed the appetites of those with money to spend. The cult will often ask parents to lend their child for photography sessions, often starting at a very young age. I have heard of 3-year-olds being used. The child is taken to a private studio, usually based in someone's home. This is the first step in a long and heartbreaking life of being used for pornography that will continue until the child grows into adulthood. The child will be often drugged to make it more compliant. It will be praised for a job done well, given candy and praise and attention. I had to sit on a few sessions when I was a teenager in Virginia to learn about this part of the group's activities. Trainers will help to create personalities that will willingly work in this area of making money and will then get these personalities addicted to drugs or alcohol to make them more compliant. Remark, personalities here means this crazy MK Ultra thing, where they take one person and split it into two, enforced schizophrenia. That is the job of the trainer, to create split personalities that can be used for specific purposes. Okay, back to the text. The people who create the photos/videos are usually low-ranking cult members, or may not even be members. The parents who supply children are brokered through other members of the group. But the money is funneled upwards through 4 layers, or buffers as they are called, to the real financiers of these enterprises. The men/women creating the pornography receives a cut of the money, i.e. paid for what they do. But some of the money is sent to intermediaries, who launder the money through charitable front organizations before it reaches the hand of the upper levels of the cult. They, much like the mafia, always receive their share of the money and invest in banking enterprises. They will also help provide good lawyers and protection, again through several layers of intermediaries, to protect their investment. Second, prostitution. Again, like pornography, this is a huge money-making enterprise. Children and adults are both used in much the same manner. Cult trainers also work with these individuals to create personalities that will come out on cue and perform their duties. This can range through ordinary prostitution to being high-level consorts to political figures. They are often taught to set up a political figure with hidden photos if the cult wants someone they can blackmail or try to control. They are also occasionally sent to pastors of churches to break up the church or to extract information needed from a client. The money is laundered through the same methods discussed above, and the true financiers will invest it either here or abroad. Belgium, Cairo, Egypt, Liberia are favorite investment countries. Several large, well-known financial institutions involved in national and international banking have been involved in these ways. 3. Gun running. This can involve the shipment of transport of arms anywhere in the world, across the Canadian or Mexican border, or on private ships around the world. Illegal arms generate a lot of money. Again, the true financiers are buffered by several layers from the people doing the actual work. The couriers often have no idea who's actually funding the runs. They are taught to do their jobs unquestioningly. They work on pain of death to not disclose who they are actually working for, and there will always be a dummy front group from whom they are ostensibly taking shipments for. Again, several layers of money is laundered. There are benevolent groups that receive checks from hundreds of sources of small amounts that add up over time, and the money is broken up and sent out to these groups, or to hundreds of sponsors who will reinvest the money at a later time. 4. Drugs. The cult is often involved in making money from drug smuggling and selling. The mafia is well aware that there's another group of people involved in illegal enterprises, a group that they do not like to mess with. There's an unwritten but well understood division on the streets about which group controls which territory, as well as frequent business partnerships between the mafia and lower-level illuminists, who are intermediaries. There are at least 3 to 4 levels of intermediaries between the distributors and the smugglers who are actually involved, and the people who are behind the financing of the operation. None of the levels know who they are actually working for, as a protective mechanism. Front groups and corporations are created to divert the knowledge of where the money is finally ending up. The cult also uses drugs during programming sessions to control lower-level members and to reward good performance. Higher-level members of the groups are not allowed to use drugs or alcohol, since it impairs judgment and makes the person a security risk. but they have no qualms about letting lower-level members, such as prostitutes or smugglers, become addicted to drugs as a further way to control them. Also, accidental overdoses have been known to be used to dispose of someone considered a security risk or no longer useful. 5. Buying and selling military access codes. On military bases around the world, there are large computers with access to almost any other computer system. Access codes that allow entry into these systems go for large amounts of money. In San Diego, I used to set up or even acted as a courier a couple of times to buy access codes for Camp Pendleton. There were 3 people on the base who were contact people under orders to advise us when the codes were going to be changed, on pain of death. Military access codes to their computers are changed at random intervals every few months, and the contact people would alert the cult to this fact. An exchange of money or goods would be made in return for the new codes. Often a harmless-looking person, such as a housewife or college student, or even an older teenager, would pick up the code by meeting the contact in a specified place off the base, but nearby. The cult, here the Illuminati, would then make money selling these codes to interested individuals. There are other activities that the cult is involved in to make money, including selling security information, blackmail and extortion, hired assassination, to name just a few. The Illuminati will have administrators on every local leadership council whose job it is to administrate the local group's finances, amongst other duties. During leadership council meetings, they will report to the leader on their accounts how the money has been invested, using front corporations of course, and how the money has been spent. There's a huge amount of accountability, and no one in their right minds even considers embezzling, since retaliation is so swift and sure that it even makes the Colombians and the Mafia look like charitable people. Accounts and their codes are locked up within encrypted programs on disk that only the administrators and the local head of the council can access. Funds are quietly invested in stocks, bonds, in local businesses, in charitable and benevolent groups, in creating false businesses, or even real ones that divert the money flow. This is all accounted for during council meetings, as well as special financial meetings. The cult is a huge money-making enterprise, and as such, they can afford excellent lawyers and expert witnesses to protect their members should any allegations be made against them. They believe with a certainty that they are truly invulnerable to litigation, above the law, and laugh arrogantly at the thought of ever being caught. It will take years of investigation, courage, and the willingness to survive intense harassment before the truth about this financial web could be known to the general public. My greatest hope is that someday this group will be no longer able to profit from the expenses of human lives, especially those very young and innocent. Copyright in the year 2000 by svali. As you can see, if that Illuminati group were real, they would be a formidable enemy, highly cohesive, well armed with weapons and intellect, etc., etc. But you know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And pride comes before a fall. And also, as we say in Germany, viel Feind, viel Ehr. Meaning, the more enemies, the more honor. If it be easy, then anybody could do it. We are not here because it's easy, we are here because it's hard. Nur die Harten kommen in Garten, supposedly translated as, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. If all the rumors were true, then that would explain why they got so sloppy in recent years, as they have grown too big. They were so sure of themselves, so self-confident, so full of pride that they plastered their symbols everywhere. It is as if they genuinely wanted to be found out, even if only on a subconscious level. So, here we are now, that even a small YouTube guy in Germany knows that much about them. Okay, here's my plan that I could think of. The best angles of attack would be to starve them from their income sources, as money is one of the main sources that keeps the group together. Money that is earned from normal people like you and me. So the few angles we can access are drugs and pornography and prostitution. These things are highly profitable because in many places of the world these things are highly illegal. If, for example, weed would be legalized everywhere, then the cult would lose one line of revenue. As then, non-cult companies could legally compete and thus bring down the price of weed and bring down the profit margin. So, either we manage to force our fellow humans to stop taking drugs and restrain from giving money to sexual actions and stop pornography, or we change the system in such a way that these endeavors would become way less profitable. The cult thrives because they have a monopoly on businesses with profit margins of thousands or 10,000s of %, or maybe even more. Maybe Portugal's route of decriminalizing drug use is a good option. I don't know. These are just a few ideas I came up with now. So, if you were looking for a good opportunity, a good reason to stop taking drugs and paying for pornography, then there's no better reason than this. A related white bill is that there are many recent news of the many arrests of pedophile rings and illegal pornography distributors. Let's hope that these were legit and decrease the profits for this type of porn. We have to hit them where it hurts them the most, their money, as nobody would join the mafia if they were only paid minimum wage. The best and most effective way would be to create incentives for big cult players to leave the cult and expose the system from the inside. No violence required. As stated above, it's all about incentives. The first big cult guy who successfully exposes all this shit would become humanity's biggest hero. We would build statues for you. Your name would be in all future history books. You could put your heart to rest by knowing that you have done the right thing. The thing so many think of, but don't have the balls and the operational knowledge to pull through. So, if you're a cult person listening to these words, know that you could earn more glory for your name than all the ex-cult leaders of the past combined. You are no normal guy, no. You have the knowledge necessary to pull this off. And you have that spark in your heart, that spark that might change the course of humanity's history to the better, once and for all. A spark that will shine a light into the darkest of places. You know what they are most afraid of. You know of the countermeasures they have put in place, and you're smarter than all of them, always have been, as you saw the flaws in their systems since day one. They are full of pride. They believe nobody would dare to do what you are planning to do. They can't even imagine the thing you're about to successfully pull off. Their arrogance is your chance. You know what you have to do. You know that they lie about everything. They lie about your future. They do not love you. They only use you as a little useful tool, always making sure you never reach your full potential. As soon as they find out about that spark of light and love in your heart, they will throw you down the cliff in an instant. You have seen it happen many times, don't you? You know you don't have to end up like this. You are smarter, faster, more creative, and way more resourceful than all of them combined. You know what small buttons to push to cause a maximum effect. You know how to bring the whole house of cards down once and for all, to put an end to the nightmare they call life. And know this, we all pray for you and the success of your mission. We pray that you avoid all the traps, that you hit all your marks on time, and that Lady Fortuna will shine her smile on you in all the right moments. We all pray that you become humanity's greatest hero of all times. Man, what a title that would be. And, as always, find your life's path and take action. Vital Red Pill out.